Welcome to another episode of the Boris Tip of the Week. In this episode, I want to talk about More Than Gems. More Than Gems is probably the best event to get more sculptures while using your gems on stuff you're already going to use them on. So it's something you should be using to your advantage whenever possible. The most important tier to hit is 7,000 gems spent on each day. That means that at any time you should have 14,000 saved up, if possible, for this event. When it comes to spending, just try to spend as evenly as possible, because you want to get to that tier and not go much further if you can help it. The best items to spend your gems on are building blueprints, the 2,000 gem ones if you're not fully upgraded yet. Books or arrows for your castle or watchtower. I prefer the castle ones because the arrows are more farmable. And then on speed ups. The worst things to invest in are the legendary sculptures, because at 2,000 gems they're not a great value unless you just need one or two, and any of the other items that are very easily replaced. Welcome to another episode of the Boris Tip of the Week. Today, I wanted to cover why supports are free-to-play's best friend. A lot of times when I mention supports, I mention how free-to-play friendly they are. And there are two major reasons for that. First is that their buffs or debuffs tend to scale well versus other commanders with damage. While damage tends to increase and creep as new commanders come out, buffs and debuffs are still going to be targeting the same things. So that 5% damage buff is going to work on yourself and on your allies at the same level or even better. And that debuff, while it might not be a larger percentage of that health, depending on how that commander may be, if it's a health debuff, it's still working on that enemy at the same level. And while the damage might not keep up, the support buffs definitely do. The other thing is that these support buffs help your allies. So while they might have newer commanders, as a free-to-play, you're helping them do better by having those commanders in the field with them. Here are the best 3 events for building commander power in Rise of Kingdoms. Whether it's sculptures or gems, both are essential for building the power of commanders, and here are the 3 best. First, of course, is Ark of Osiris. Win or lose, you get a good amount of gems, a good amount of sculptures, and it's worth an hour of your time if you can cut it out of your busy day. Next, of course, is Wheel of Fortune. You're investing gems here, but getting sculptures back, both guaranteed and theoretical. So overall, if you can balance the gem spending, it is worth the effort, especially if you can get to those nice even numbers. Last, but certainly not least, is More Than Gems. This is by far the most open-ended because you can spend your gems on anything, including things you're already going to buy. So being able to utilize that is the best possible option for you, especially as you're building up building levels and castle levels. So keep that in mind and spend those extra gems to get some more value and get your commander power up just a little bit more. Welcome to another episode of the Boris Tip of the Week. In this episode, I wanted to cover 3 things to never forget when you're playing Ark of Osiris. Because there are a lot of things that are going on, some things can slip through the cracks, but don't let these. First, buildings are your main point source, so you need to make sure you're holding those buildings. Because even those arc captures are going to mean nothing if you're losing all your buildings in the process. Striking a balance is key. Next, full rally garrisons will help you succeed so much. So even if you can't have a perfect garrison or a perfect rally, the closest to full, the better it is, because you're better against rallies and you're better against swarm. And last but certainly not least, don't be afraid to generate pressure in the field, especially if you have your garrisons and rallies full. You can start pressuring in the field. And don't be afraid to get mobile with your forces and try to create pressure on the enemy, because that can help turn the tide very easily. These are the best Archer Mightiest Governor commanders. First, we have CY. He is really solid right now, and while he's not necessarily better than Gorgo, he is still a great option and definitely deserving of the top spot. Second place, we have Asher, who is pretty strong on his own as well, and while he isn't quite CY because he's considerably older, he's still a great option in the mainstay of the rally meta, especially for the Mightiest Governor commanders. Last, but certainly not least, we have Henry. I would like to put Dido here, but really CY's kit synchronicity with Hera is just so strong that really, unless you already have Dido, there's not really a reason to build her. So Henry gets the nod because he is great in rallies, and between his overall loaded kit versus run versus 1 and Swarm, he's just a great option, especially with Asher already being out in the meta. These are the best Cavalry Mightiest Governor commanders. First, of course, we have Eleanor, the newest commander and the newest garrison. really needs no introduction. She's great with Hera, she's great overall as a garrison, so she does get the top spot in the top nod, especially since cavalry is kind of in a weak spot rally-wise right now. Next, we have Justinian. Justinian isn't as good as Eleanor overall, because one, he's an older commander, and two, the garrison meta is very strong with Hera, so it helps raise Eleanor above him. But he's no slouch. He's definitely very solid, and a great option if you're planning on going rally, because you could put him with Nevsky very easily. Last, but certainly not least, we have Jan. Jan is a great option that goes well with Eleanor, but also can go well on its own with Hera if you're looking to defend multiple positions, but overall is more suited to be behind Eleanor now in the current meta. Here are the top Mightiest Governor Commanders for infantry. First, of course, is Scipio Aemilianus. It only seems appropriate that the most recent commander take the top of the list, as he's the top rally commander right now for infantry, and he's poised to be for quite some time since smite damage is fairly strong. Next, of course, we have Gorgo. Take everything I just said about Scipio Aemilianus and change the term rally to garrison, and that's essentially what you have with Gorgo. She has a loaded kit, she pairs very well with Hera, and I imagine she'll continue to pair well with whoever else they release for infantry, because she fits the overall kit setup most infantry commanders have very well. And last but certainly not least, we have a tie between Zenobia and Tariq. In this case, the best option is the one that fits whatever commander you want first. So if you want Scipio Aemilianus, Tariq is your third option. If you want Gorgo, then Zenobia will be your next option. And last but certainly not least, here are the best leadership Mightiest Governor Commanders. First, by a country mile, is Heraclius. Hera goes well with Gorgo, goes well with Dido, goes well with CY, goes well with Jan, Eleanor. Pretty much every commander that is garrison viable is determined in viability based on how well they can work with Hera. And that really attests to how loaded his kit is and how central and integral he is to the meta. So he is the number one option, and until something else better comes out, he will continue to be in perpetuity. Second place, we have Lapu Lapu. He wasn't nearly as strong as Hera, but he does do fairly solid 1 versus 1 and pairs well with Hera. So it's something that you can consider as an option as well. And in third place, we have nobody, because really the leadership meta is just not that great. When it comes to being in war, sometimes you may be away from the front because you're away, but you're supporting. And what happens is your marches get lower and lower. So your options tend to get a little more slim. Do you take the damage and take the wounded? Or do you just try to march back in a longer march time? So I wanted to cover a trick I use personally, and I've seen it pretty popular, to avoid having huge losses while getting your marches back faster. Since when your marches are routed, you move faster with them, a lot of people will just let their marches get routed. But if you don't want to take the massive 10, 20,000 wounded when you get down to 20,000 units, a trick you can use is to just find any barbarians nearby and attack them. If you're below 20,000 units, you should be defeated fairly easy by anything above a level 45 barbarian. So that'll just quickly knock you out, and it'll get you back quicker while also only taking about 200 casualties, which is a lot less than the 10,000. Here's something that each role should be working on in 2025. These are more aspirational goals, but it's something I wanted to touch base on. First, for field, let's get some more supports. Supports are terrific for the game. They keep everything fresh. They're great for free-to-plays because they don't necessarily have to be maxed to be providing help to your allies. And generally, they're just good for the health of the game because of it. So let's see some more. Next, for rallies, let's continue to diversify into damage types. Scipio Aemilianus is great. We got combo damage on the horizon, so let's lean into that and get some more damage variety. Having the counterplay be more about damage type versus damage type would be excellent for the game and overall tactics between garrisons and rallies. And last but certainly not least, for garrisons, let's see some more solutions to Swarm. Right now we have a lot of damage solutions and normal damage solutions, but I would love to see more pain doled out to Swarm. And we've got CY and Hera, but let's keep that rolling. Here's one goal for each troop type in 2025. First, for cavalry, let's see this combo damage thing through, and let's make sure that it's an excellent option. Damage variety is terrific for the game, because without the damage amounts going up, you can induce variety and create a good amount of counterplay. So it helps for power creep and it helps for the variety of the game. So let's see it through. Next, for infantry, let's continue to see this smite damage meta really develop. It's been great under Scipio Emilianus, Gorgo, Liu William Wallace. Let's make sure that it continues to develop because it gets a great way for infantry to deal increased damage while not leaving their main archetype of being incredibly tanky. So I really want to see that continue to go. Lastly, for archers, let's see some supports. Shajar and Philip are really the start of this, but I want to see more of them because it is a terrific option to have something that is great at support, but also does a lot of really good damage. Here's how many hammers you should save for Hunt for History. If you decide to save up hammers for Hunt for History over multiple event cycles, you can save yourself a bunch of gems and money on hammers while still getting the blueprints you need. But a common question is how many you should save before you try. And today we'll tackle just that. Since the blueprints are only on every 5th floor for legendaries, you want to reach and stop on a legendary tier, whether that's 5, 10, 15, or so forth. There are 2 philosophies you want to use for this, the guaranteed method or the average method. Much like the wheel or any chance-based event, your situation will depend on your preference and mentality. If you feel you have average to above average luck, and have some gems in case you fall short to buy some extra hammers, you can save 13, half of the total options, for each floor you want to do, so 65 for 5 or 130 for 10. This works, but if you have below average luck, you can go safer at 26 per floor, so 130 or 260 for 5 and 10.